Hello, everyone. Today is Friday. So today is the day for Friday Forum. My name is Cyndy McDonald, and I am your illustrious hostess for these Friday Forums. I started them many months ago when when COVID started. And now we found that they've been so popular, we've continued on with them even throughout this whole past year. So thank you to all of you who listen and have sent me messages and informed me of how helpful and interesting these Friday forums are for you. I'm actually going to start putting them on the first Friday and the third Friday of every month starting in April. So we'll have a second Friday forum next Friday that you can join me. So I'll give you more information about that later. But today I want to introduce you to my very special guest, somebody that I've known for a long time, Gena Lester. Hi, Gina.
Hey there, I'm super excited to be here.
Well, I'm so glad to have you. And I'm so impressed. Looking over your information. So you have the education preparation centers in the Houston, Dallas area, correct?
Yes. That's
And
right.
you also are quite an educated woman. I was just noticing you have a PhD, you have a doctorate, you have two masters, plus your undergraduate. I
Yeah.
will tell you, you're the only other person I've found that actually has studied philosophy because you have your doctorate in philosophy. I have a bachelor's degree that includes a minor in philosophy. So I at least understand it, but not have gone as far. So um, as people, as you're all logging in, please add in where you're from. I'm in Central California. Gina, where are we talking to you from today?
I'm actually located in South Lake, Texas, which is really right in the heart of the Dallas Fort Worth area. I see somebody else from Houston, and so I do work with students that are in Houston, Austin, that area. But my home base is right in the middle of Dallas Fort Worth.
Oh, so you were right in the middle of the whole storm and all of
Oh
that.
yes, yes. I
So
see
you
a
can
couple.
see we've got people coming from India,
Mhm.
Virginia, California, Denver, New York, just Jersey Shore. We have such a wonderful group of people that join us for these Friday forums. When you have comments as you're joining us, please make sure your link is set to panelists and attendees so that everybody can see your comments. So keep in mind when you're making comments or adding links or things like that, that share it with everyone. So that's very helpful. And we also have a question and answer. If you do have, I guess I'm on a meeting, not a, but well, we should have a question and answer section too. Yes. So if you have question and answers, go ahead and put your questions in, and either Gina or I will answer them. And if we can't get to them today, we can follow up with you. So that's the beauty of the question and answer on Zoom.
Mhm.
So Gina, as we talk about this, and you've gone through the upheaval that the last year has been, tell us a little bit more about your background and where you came from, and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Okay. So for me, as I mentioned, I'm in the Dallas Fort Worth area. I'm an independent educational consultant, like I'm sure everyone here is. And I actually came into this business in 2011. I had previously ran a private school, started a private school from the ground up, helped them develop out their college process, all of those pieces, and we're helping students in the college admissions arena before I stepped out into my own private practice. And I know Cyndy knows this, but my husband was had Parkinson's. He was very terminally ill, and I needed to come home and take care of him. And so I switched out. I had to leave the school, those things, come home, and I thought I need something that I can be continuing to do. And people would just kind of came to me and said, can you help us with our kids in college? And so thus Education Prep Centers was born, and it's still going strong from that point, which is pretty amazing. And I think for me, my husband did pass away in 2015, and I always tell everybody I'm remarried to a widower as well. So that's an amazing thing to find love a second time. But the one thing for me for sure is that it made me realize how short life is. And when I really think about my business and that I want to be able to have flexibility, but yet, really grow and have that thriving business. And so for me, as I began to think through what my model was going to be, that's kind of what brought me to where I'm at today. And so I definitely started out with the brick and mortar, hung my sign. People came to my office, just like probably most of you guys are doing currently. But I kept thinking through, the late nights that I wouldn't finish, and being in a big metroplex area, it can take an hour to get across town. And so, there'd be nights I wouldn't get home till 10 or 11 or, later from the job. And so while I loved it, I kept thinking there's got to be a better system here. I also have a background in business, so I kind of pull those two together to step into where I'm at today. So that's kind of my journey as to how I ended up going from traditional brick and mortar into the current model I'm using.
So did you pivot to more of a virtual before the pandemic, or did the pandemic, spur that on and kind of accelerate it? So was that a direction you're already going, or did it generate from the pandemic?
No, actually, I was already virtual when the pandemic hit. And so what happened was probably in about 2018, somewhere in that range, 2017, I started learning about the online world. Like I said, I have a pretty strong business background. So kind of really started looking around, trying to figure out, okay, how can I navigate the online world? And still give the same quality that I do in a one-on-one, or, make sure that I'm really reaching those kids and making an impact on them. So basically in early 2019, I began talking to my families about the fact that or about the option of them meeting with me virtually using Zoom before anybody else really knew or used Zoom. And so
before it was a household word, right?
Right. It was not a household word. And, it was interesting because so many of them, they played sports, or they're in the band, or their schedules are crazy. So they would come in, dripping sweat from a football practice or whatever that looked like, and trying to eat, and then having to rush home and do homework and feeling stressed out, which I think all of them, that's pretty normal for all of our kids. And so I said, hey, do you want to meet virtually? And I began to just do that with the one-on-ones. And, I kind of gave them the option, which way do you want to go? And probably within 3 months, I had 100% of my students wanting to meet online and not in person. So the parents loved it. The kids loved it. When I would sit down to meet with new families, I would tell them, you have two options. I do have, because at that time I still had my brick and mortar, space. And so I was like, you can come in and meet with me here, or we can meet online. Now the only option is online. And nobody took up, even if I would say, oh, well, maybe you can, if you want to just do a meeting here or there, let me know. Nobody ever took me up on coming in person. Every one of them wanted online. So when 2020 hit, I didn't miss a beat. As a matter of fact, and I will share this more as we go in, but I definitely more than almost tripled my business in 2020 because of the model and kind of just some other things that I began adding. So
well, tell us. So we're getting questions already. What is your model, and what approach did you take? So, and I have found that too. I mean, I've been meeting with students virtually for quite a number of times because my students are from 22 different high schools, and some of them will travel, 45, 50 miles. And so it's much easier to meet with them online. So what approach did you take? What model did you develop?
So I started out with the one-on-ones, just doing the one-on-one virtually. But again, and now I have I still have my physical address and that type of thing for my business, but I meet everybody virtually, just like what we're doing here. But I also knew that I wanted to scale my business, and I'm a solopreneur, and I do hire some people 1099. Texas is a little more friendly to that than I know California and some other places are. But I also knew that lifestyle I talked about, wanting to be able to have some freedom to move around and have flexibility in my business. So I started learning also back in 2019 about online courses and memberships and just all the various, there's so many different models out there. And I began learning and took some courses, those type of things, to really understand them. And they were great. The biggest issue is that most of the people in that industry, they don't speak our language. So what worked didn't work. And I remember having a conversation at a conference with Cyndy, probably in about 2018 or 2019. And we were talking about memberships and business online and kind of how this was going to work. And really, you, Cyndy, and I think Ethan Sawyer, there was other than that, there was hardly anybody doing really online, online businesses in our industry. And so, but I kept thinking, I know I'm going to crack this. I know there's a way to do this. And so my model now includes kind of a variety of things. So I offer courses where families that are really just the do-it-yourself type families, they can come in, they can buy, courses can cost a variety of pricing, and there's a lot that goes into it. For me, I don't offer really low end, like $49, $59 courses that are kind of a lot of fluff. I want them to have actual success with it. So I build my courses, they're, out enough that a parent can literally go through and figure it out on their own. And it's difficult because when somebody buys a course, you just have to know that's their choice. They're getting more help than they would if they didn't have anything. So I do have those type of courses, but my biggest success has been actually my group coaching program. So I definitely still have my one-on-ones, but I've been able to limit the number of students I'm taking in those one-on-ones. And I've gone to this group coaching model that's all virtual. And this past year, I walked through with the first group that was completely virtual group coaching. And literally I had 100% of the kids get accepted into one of their top 2 schools. So far we're at about $4 million in scholarships for them all. And there was probably about an 85% success rate as far as all the colleges, that they applied to. So there are always those that some are not going to get accepted into. But the rates and what I saw happen was just as successful as my one-on-ones. And so it's been amazing because now I have these pods of group kids that I'm working with, and it has freed up so much time for me that it's been amazing. So now I'm not, spending every day of the week meeting with student back to back to back to back. In that virtual world, I'm able to do some of both. And it's been wonderful. And I've definitely seen more the parents, I think, that are going through the group coaching. They are more aware of how many, of what's going on, and they're helping the process without they're not hands-on. They're not, editing their kids' essays. They're not doing that because I'm educating them. So that's what's so amazing. somebody asked how many kids are in a group. And so right now I have 22 in one group. And basically, I meet with once a month, I meet with the parents, and everybody comes in, and I'm like, this is the theme for this month. These are the things we're going to be doing. I educate the parent. And then with the kids, it depends on what we're doing. If I'm going to be doing essays and we're going to be writing and really diving into essays, I will break those down. And obviously, even within the groups, I'm able to say, okay, these kids are applying to this type of school. These kids are applying to this type of school. And so I can kind of navigate where I'm putting them when I break them down into smaller groups. I use Zoom. I use the breakout room. So I will do office hours. So basically, let me explain. So if I go through and I teach everybody, this is how we're going to write our essay. We're going to kind of brainstorm together overall, like what are some ideas, and then I can break them down into Zoom rooms to really help them one-on-one if I need to. And I always have some like work time. So when I'm meeting with them, I'm like, okay, here's some work time that you guys can spend working on that essay while I'm right here, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. Nope. That makes sense. And I can see we're getting all sorts of great comments and questions. So let's take a step back. I want to address two things, and I think they're really important, especially in our industry, because you have shattered the whole myth, and I've talked about this for years and years about you can only do college counselings one-on-one because everybody's all worried about confidentiality. But if they're signing up and they know they're going to be in a group, there's no problem with confidentiality, and you're providing you're providing group information. And I think that's a huge benefit. And I think that sometimes we as professionals and business people need to do what you did, and that's think outside the box a little bit. Because I've been doing groups for years. I've always done my applications in groups. My students have always done it, and they've loved it. They've really, I mean, they have Christmas parties and, and stuff. So now we're trying to do it virtually, though I'm finding is a little different, but that's one myth. And I think you've busted, Gina. And I think that's very valuable. And you can see lots of people their wheels are turning and they're like, okay, now how do we do this? And so I think that's one of the biggest things. And then the other thing is, and this is one of the questions, is how did you get the word out? How did you market this so that people found out this is what you were doing?
Okay, so kind of before that, I want to address, because I saw a couple of different questions. So basically what I do in my group is that this is not a low dollar ticket item. I want to say that, so when you think about your college, what you charge one-on-one, I do discount that some because obviously I'm working in a group, but it's still, it's a comprehensive package. I do include essay review for the students in there because, I don't want them just putting out an essay that's not correct or that's not going to be what the colleges are looking for. So I do include that. And then I do give the families, right now I give them 2 hours of one-on-one consulting that they can use anytime. So, typically they use that for, maybe they'll ask me to look over their college list, or I use Guided Path. So I can see their list anyway. And I look over it from a high level personally, just because I want to make sure that I'm getting, that their list is right. But if they're wanting to go in depth, they can book that at any point in time. So when you think about, you've gone from 20 hours or plus whatever meeting one-on-one to just 2 hours with those students, you freed up a ton of time. So the marketing piece has definitely been interesting, and I definitely had to work through a lot to kind of figure this out. What I will tell you is that there are a lot of people out there that are teaching marketing and they do not understand our industry. at all. They don't understand our terminology. They don't understand our words. They just don't, they don't get that. And so for me, I've kind of, somebody said amen. Yes. And so I've definitely been trying to, had to go through and figure out what is a sales funnel. What is what does a webinar look like? What does the live event look like? So you think about all of the different things that are in marketing, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I mean, it can become very overwhelming. So what I really suggest is you figure out the one to start out with, the one or two platforms that you feel like you're going to find an audience to reach. Because if you start, otherwise there's just too many and you become overwhelmed. And so the big thing I will tell you is that you have to get comfortable being on video. That was the biggest thing I had to overcome. And, I thought, oh, I'm too old, or, I don't look like the young person who is so professional, polished on the, on their videos and all of those things. And I really came to realize that the truth is they want to see you, they want to connect with you, and they want you to be authentic. And so they don't care if you, stumble over your words, or you aren't picture perfect every time. They really are looking for your knowledge and what you have to give for them. And so I do have a private Facebook group, and I pour into that group a lot. And it's just grown organically over time. So I have my business Facebook page. I think I have now over 1,000 followers, and that took a while to build, but that's there. And then they go into my group. I do workshops that are live inside the Facebook group on a regular basis. So I go in, I pick a topic. Recently I have been doing, I started out calling it the state of college admissions around, when we first started in January, because I was like, oh yeah, there are so many changes and people just don't even understand them. And so this whole quarter, I've just been going in and talking about this is the change. Do you need to take an SAT, an ACT? The parents are just, overwhelmed. If they can't get their kids into a test score, into that test, they really just need somebody to say, it's okay. Right. You can still get accepted. It's not the end of the world. And so these parents are so panicked that they literally want to be in the group. And what I have found, and I've heard this over and over, is that you give and you give, and the more you give, the more people want to work with you. And not 100% of them are going to, but the people that are there, they definitely want to come into my programs. And so I open my program about once a month so I can onboard a group at the same time. I don't want to, otherwise, if they're coming in sporadically, then that becomes too complicated figuring out how to make sure they understand this is where, these are your platforms you're using, this is what you need to sign into, all of that stuff. So I open and close it on a monthly basis. And the people who work with me actually come to all the free stuff, and they go in the group and they're like, oh, this is the greatest group, you should join this. And I'm like, I don't even ask them to do it. They just do it. And I know it's just because they're excited that somebody else is connecting to them. So that's basically how I've done a lot of my advertising right now, is really on Facebook and Instagram. I am thinking about venturing over into YouTube. That's a whole other ball game. I'm just like, but yeah. So, there are just different platforms, and it's just really getting out there and finding where you're comfortable at. I know there are people who build great businesses on LinkedIn. I just haven't really gone that direction, but LinkedIn is a great one too. So I think it's where you're comfortable working, but you definitely, I would say the biggest thing is to do live. And yes, somebody asked, do I make it live and do I provide recordings? So inside of my group, when I do it live, the recordings are there. They can go back and watch them at any point in time on their own. But in my group sessions, and my classes that I do online with families, I record everything. That way, if a student can't be there, then they can go back and watch it. So I do have it set up where there's the recordings, they can go back, and any worksheets that I've given them or any resources that I think they need, they're right there. And so even if they aren't live, they can go back and watch, and they can even, they know the pre-topic. So if they're not going to be there and they have a question, they can pre-submit that to me and I'll answer it on the video ahead of time, just so they had that answer.
Wow. So I want to go back to the other, excuse me, thing that you brought up in all of this that you're doing. And it's something I think we miss a lot, and that's working with parents. Excuse me. So you're doing a lot of work with parents. Talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, you know, when I first went online, that was my kind of, I guess you feel a little nervous about that. And I could always tell when I'm sitting, you know, working with a kid and they're doing this the whole time, you know, they're like looking over. So, you know, okay, the parent is sitting probably on the other side of the camera, and that's fine. You know, I know my systems and I'm confident with who I am. And so I think that's the biggest thing I'd say is be confident. You are doing this, you're smart, you are the expert. So be confident in that, and know that, you know, the parent is getting just as much knowledge as you are. So, but when I moved into the group sessions and into the parent, into that space, I knew, okay, I want to make sure that the kids are completing the assignments, that they're doing what I'm asking them to do, or they're just not showing up, or those type of things. And really and truly, when you're looking and working in that group session, you're not holding their hand quite as much. So you have to know that the parent is driving that conversation and driving that process in the background to some extent. And so I love it when we come in and my families come on live with me. I have everybody where we can see each other. They can unmute, they can talk to me. They feel very connected. They love the fact that they're like, oh, I get to talk to her. You know, it's like setting their minds at ease about something that maybe they're nervous or anxious about themselves. And they're an hour, that's it. And never do they go over. I mean, the parents, I don't get a bazillion questions. They just are there. They want to understand the process and they just want to feel involved. And I don't find that they're over, you know, helicoptering over their kid in the process, making, you know, adjusting or telling their kid they're not writing a good essay or those type of things. They really do leave that to me. And I think it's because I'm able to say that ahead of time in our meetings. You know, and I'm telling, you know, I let them know. College admissions officers will know if you over edit or you edit your kid's essay and you don't want to be the one, you don't want your child denied because of something you did. And, you know, I talk about other parents and other situations that that's happened with, so that it's not on them, but they're like, oh, no, I don't want to be like that. And so educating the parent, I think, is like a huge benefit.
Oh, I totally agree. And I think that's another, you know, myth that we have in our industry is that we, you know, we don't work with parents and, you know, and keep the parents out and yeah, if we can bring them in and have them become our allies, and as you've said, you've given them that comfort level and help meet their needs, so then they're be more responsive to the things, and that helps the students too. So so there is, you know, tons of questions. So is your Facebook group, is it a paid Facebook? Is it a membership, or is it's just you invite people in and out?
I have a free group, but then the people that join what I call the Accepted Academy, then they have their own private group. And I saw somebody ask about organic versus paid, that kind of thing. I started out completely organic. I have started running Facebook ads in the last couple of months, but it's definitely, I would say when you're running ads, you want to have somebody that knows what they're doing, and you're going to have to train them in our industry because they don't understand our industry at all. And you want to start out with a small amount before you get bigger, because you got to make sure your words are right. And Facebook is doing a whole lot of crazy things, and we'll see how long I stay on Facebook ads. But there's Google ads. That's a great great thing too. And I've never tried like Instagram or any of those, but I know there are other ad platforms, and I do think it helps. I mean, it allows you to get your reach out. I would say you still want to really niche down a lot, because if you just throw it out to the world, you're just going to get a bunch of people that aren't going to resonate with you, your business, those type of things. So having somebody that can help you really understand your market and who you're targeting and all of that's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we've had as a guest in the Friday forums, Susan DeBar, who does Pinterest, and it drives a lot of business for her. So I agree with you. Find a medium. And we were just talking about Clubhouse and how that's a new medium, and parents aren't on it as much anymore, but that could offer some opportunities too. So,
yeah. And somebody I saw ask about selective, how do I deal with kids that may be applying to the same university? And the reality is that we don't share the college list. So the kids do not, in our group sessions, I'm not like, oh, well, everybody who's applying to this school, this is what you need to do. And everybody that needs to go to this school, this is what you do. So I teach in a very organic and generic way so that they understand what they need to be doing, but they're being very, but their list is their list. So, and they really don't, like, kind of like you said, Cyndy, they connect with each other. They become friends with each other. Maybe they share that offline and I don't know it, but I don't find there being a lot of competition in that respect, because they just don't feel that. And honestly, because I've had people ask me, well, how does that affect your private clients? And what I say is that the people who really want to be private clients, that are going to pay more money. They want the one-on-one. They want the hand-holding. They don't want anybody else to know about their, they want to keep that in a little bubble. They're still going to buy your one-on-one packages. That's not going to change. But there is a whole world of people out there who either can't afford to pay for the private consulting. They are confused. They're overwhelmed. It breaks my heart to see how many kids are like, didn't get into schools and they're feeling, devastated about it because they didn't understand the system or what to do or how to go about it. And so this is that way to reach that whole other group of people that aren't able or really aren't looking for that one-on-one consulting.
Yeah. So one of the questions was, so you still have your private one-on-one students, right?
I do. It's very limited. I don't take very many now. I've been able to really pull that back because the group coaching, and 90% of the people I talk to want to go in the group coaching.
So your group coaches, so there are different courses. You said the Accepted Academy. What's the other one that you do, Gina?
Everything is under Accepted Academy. And so I have what I call the valedictorian program, and that is for rising seniors. They're the juniors now that are going to be seniors. In the fall, I'll open up probably a small group. I'll have a limited number of spaces for late seniors that are coming in that I'll work with for them. And then I have a program that's for 9th through fall of their 11th grade year. And that's designed as like a monthly membership, actually. And the parents come in. That's where I'm meeting with, that's really the parent and the kid both on. And I'm just talking through all the things that they can be doing ahead of time, getting prepared, making sure, I talk about overarching course selections. You got to remember, when you're doing something like this, I am not saying, Johnny has, he wants to be an engineer, and this is exactly the courses, you're not developing that out. If they want that, they need to come into your group, one-on-one. They need to pay for those hours. So if there's something specific they want, they can buy hours and I will look at it. But this is like an overarching, giving them general advice, and they love that. And then I have courses, and that's kind of something I do run ads for, because that would be the total do-it-yourself parent. They just want to spend a few $100s. They want to get a course. They want to learn the process, and then they're going to help their student through it on their own. So it's better than them not having any advice at all. So I have all of the various different areas, and it just depends on the student and the family as to what their needs are and where they need to be.
Wow.
And I will say I found, originally I was thinking, I would do kind of the group coaching for the younger students, but I don't think that really works, or it didn't for me. I didn't feel like it quite jived as well, because you've got 9th graders, 10th graders, 11th graders, things to that effect. And I will say I tried everything with a small group first. I started out and it was, 4 or 5 families. And I'm like, this is what I'd like to do. I'm going to give you a bigger discount because I want, to walk you through this. I want your feedback. Please tell me what, I can do to improve. I was very open and walking through that. And I did that first group was in 2019. So when we hit 2020, the group coaching was just like that. And so it was all pre-COVID. So it was great.
Oh, look at what a luminary you were. You were just already primed and ready and prepared. So,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So do you have a limit to the number of groups? Diana asked, how many groups do you have? How many in a group?
No, I mean, the group sessions, and I let parents know this, that the group itself could be 50 or 100 or however many. Right. There's not a limit to that. When I limit it would be if I'm going to, and it would be very specific things like list building. I saw somebody ask about that. You got to remember, I'm coaching them and they're doing. So I'm not going in and building out their list. So I am going through and I'm teaching them how to build a list. And so what I do is that I ask the kids to submit one school that they might like. And then I take those schools and I show them how to find the data, what to do, how to go through looking at that, not based on their own statistics. So I basically use, a dummy account to kind of go through and create a list. And then once I show them how to do that, they go out and do it. And then once they do that, if they want me to look over it, like I said, they get 3 hours. They can, they can use some of those hours to have me review their list personally. And some do and some don't. And that's okay. But I'm so specific about how to create that list that they really do. They do a good job at making it happen. So
are you using a platform other than Zoom for setting up your courses? So yes. What are you using, Gina?
I originally used a platform called Kajabi, and I loved Kajabi. And so I used Kajabi, and I really suggest that for anybody who's starting out, because you can build sales pages, it does email, it does everything. So and it's Kajabi.
Kabogi or something. Kajabi. Somebody can look it up. Yes. Some of you probably have used it. And I've used Teachable, which works in a very similar way.
Thank you, Lisa. Yes, we got Jonathan. We got Kajabi.
And somebody put in Teachable. Find the links. Put them in, guys.
Yes. And I can pull up Kajabi really quickly and put a link in for you guys too as we're sitting here. But I love it. It really does. I feel like when you're using something like that, they really do help your students have more access to everything, and they're able to really just go back. It's simple. And there's a way, like for me, and I know people use different platforms. So, I mean, like I said, I use guided path. So I'm going to kind of talk about that. But inside my Kajabi, I'm actually able to go in and set up right on the portal where it says the word, guided path. And then from there, I literally, they just click on it and it's a link and it takes them straight there. So it's not, it's very simple for them to use. They don't have to always remember 15 different, links and those type of things. So, yeah. So
yeah, and you can do it. I mean, you're using Guided Path, but many other people are using other platforms, College Planner Pro or Counsel More or 360 or whatever they're using. You can do the similar kind of thing with all of them. And I think that brings up a really good point of having systems in place and tools and resources. You're not trying to do this all from scratch on your own. You're using Kajabi or Teachable. You're using a college planning tool. You're using, maybe, the social media. I use MailChimp, and so using different tools to help you is all to do what you want to do. What we need to do is spend less time on all of the back end work so that you can spend more time creating those groups and basically increasing your revenue.
Yeah, and I put a link in there too for Kajabi, and I think that's the one that gives you like a free 14 or so day trial. So that's their homepage is what I think that one is. But for me, I spent a lot of money trying to figure out the whole tech piece of it because I was like, oh, well, I want to use this or I want to use that. Or, people would say you need an email and you needed this and you needed that and you needed this. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, gosh, I'm spending a ton of money. And so when I found Kajabi, I fell in love with it strictly from the perspective of that it was one place that everything was. Now, once you grow your business and once you start getting bigger there, you may decide you want to do something different, but really, I love it. It literally allows you to build out sales pages. It's an email provider for you. It allows you to do as a matter of fact, the first thing I ever did online was I hosted a virtual summit. And I did everything inside of Kajabi. And so I had different professionals come in and speak about different topics. And this was back in January of 2019.
Wow.
And so everybody came in and all of the videos were hosted right there. And so it's great. And, my families will tell me they love the platform because they're like, oh, I get to go. It's like our homework. And the parents, I think that's the amazing thing is that parents sometimes, not all, but a lot of parents do want to feel a little bit connected. I have the parents that don't want to do anything, they want their kid to just do it all and that's going to happen. But regardless, they all feel like it feels official to them, like there's a place for them to go and actually find what they're looking for. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So a couple other things, and we've got about 15 minutes left. And I noticed Dan put in their Teachery too, which is one I hadn't heard of. So thanks for sharing that. And if you others have others that you've done, please put them in. But do you give everybody an account to like for you use Guided Path? Do they all get an account to Guided Path and you include that in your price, or how do you handle that part of it?
I do for juniors. Now, the younger ones, I don't necessarily do that. Once they move into that junior program, I do. So they, because for me, it's like, okay, and I think through that, like if you're talking about, you're now teaching, let's just make our numbers very simple. Let's say you're going to spend 20 hours with a one-on-one client. So you've now moved that 20 hours into a group that you now have 10. Let's just say you have 10 people in there. So instead of having, 10 people that have 20 hours each, you now have 20 hours for those 10 people. So when you're charging, you are charging less than your one-on-one. But like I said, I don't discount that a huge amount because of the value of what they're getting. And so that's why for me, I do include the special things like an essay review, the guided path. Those are the things they seem, well, essays are not little, but none of us think that, but those things that they want to know, I really want somebody else to look over that essay, or I really want somebody, I love the fact that they can get in and do the searching with guided path or whatever platform. And so that really works great for me. And somebody asked, I start my junior year right now. So I'm filling up right now my juniors, which will be my rising seniors. I will close in May and not open it again until the fall, and probably August I'll open it up, but it'll be a separate group, a separate program specifically for late seniors. And it'll be a whole different platform, not platform as in where I host it, but a different program. The other one, the parent one, they can come in at any time. So it's month to month.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And are you thinking or considering expanding down to younger grade ages? It seems to me like this would fit really well with middle school. And, and I know another area of industry in our industry is transition. I teach about that, and many of my UCLA students are on the call today, and we talk about that, and transitioning from high school to college too. I mean, there's just so many opportunities there. Gina, what other ones are you thinking about doing in the future?
Yeah, I definitely am looking at, eventually I want to add in the junior high group, because they're taking classes young, and many times they're very zealous parents and they want to jump in and get involved, that kind of thing. And so eventually I want to definitely bring in that group for sure. And then I also have a heart for the empty nester. So that's another area I've kind of considered, like, once you send your child to school, how do you handle not being able to see their grades every day? Or, then when they call and they're sick, and having 3 children and being an empty nester, I get that piece. So I've looked at, those are some areas for me that I'm considering expanding. But yeah, you definitely can. And somebody, you could have a group with transfer students. Somebody said that. I think any of those things would work. And I will say that, somebody asked, do I have a fear of too much demand and those type of things? And so, you do have to look over what you're doing and your hours. But what's been great for me is that I've expanded my business to the point now that I can bring in people to work as 1099s for me that are doing not the thing I love. And I think that's the thing we have to remember. It's the everyday building of the business that sometimes becomes overwhelming. Like, I don't necessarily want to write all the emails. I don't necessarily want to, have to answer all the tech problems, but you can have people that are there doing those pieces for you, and you're doing the thing you love and you're passionate about. And so when you really think through, I do have somebody that helps me with essays. So, and there's lots of things out there that, programs and platforms and people that help with essays. So that would be a piece that you might want to bring in, just to keep the essay part, especially as you grow and get a lot more clients. But really and truly, if you have 4 groups, let's say you have 4 groups, and all of those groups you're meeting with once a week. Let's say you're actually doing it once a week with them. You're still only spending 4 hours a week meeting with them. And then the time you spend to prepare for each of those groups. So, it's a totally different model to really think about.
Yeah, I think that's very, very true. And it goes back to what you were saying before, is that, in the normal marketing funnels and things like that, they don't know what we do or how to approach it, but you've been able to crack that and plug things in, so that here's this approach, and you are also showing how you can deliver college counseling in a very important way, and really meet the needs of families at a much more affordable and accessible. You're building much more equity and access, which is another big thing. And I know that's something that many people are concerned about. And I know many of my students are, that's one of their goals. So this is a way to do it. So
it is great because you can bring in, you can give scholarships when you're doing a group coaching. I could give 5 scholarships because the group coaching cost is helping offset that. And so you can bring it into that group. And I think that's like, a huge advantage for what you're doing.
Yeah. And I think the whole scholarship model is a really good way to go. So if somebody wants to learn more, you can, obviously people are very interested in what you're doing. How do they reach you? You're doing something special to help other people do what you've done. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So, for me, as I've kind of moved forward, I just really realized as going through spending all the money, learning, and through the school of hard knocks, so to speak, that there is nobody that's really teaching this to IECs and how to have online businesses. And I see people out there putting stuff in the online world that are not necessarily part of any of the professional organizations, and they're just kind of out there and they're taking on this space, and you wonder like where, maybe they're amazing and they really do know what they're doing. But I want to see more of the IECs, the business professionals that are in this industry grow and, put out our stuff ethically. And so I have decided to kind of spread over into that area where I'm going to be working with IECs, and I'm looking at putting together a program that would be basically how to take your business from where it is to to an online market, and knowing where, how you want to change that business model, what that's going to look like, everything from understanding platforms to marketing to building out courses to there's so much, and be able to do it in your language, in our language, and what we speak, not what, marketers have that. So yes, I have a link, and whoops, that's not it. Let me grab my link really quickly. And I will stick it into here, and it is a wait list. So if you guys want to get on the wait list, then I definitely will be putting that out in the next within the next few weeks. So I'm super excited about that. You can also connect with me if you're on Clubhouse. I am on Clubhouse. I have a room called Edpreneurs Edpreneurs Accelerator. And that is just a club that's on Clubhouse, and you can join, follow the club. And I'm going to be bringing people like Cyndy as well, and others. We're going to be moderating and really, helping edpreneurs grow their business and think outside the box. Because I think that's the biggest key. And definitely, if somebody wants to reach out to me an email, my email is just Gina, it's Gena, at educationprepcenters.com. Just pretty simple, Gina at Education Prep Center. So you can email me, but I did put that link in, and you can definitely, once you do that, you'll be on my list, and I will absolutely, reach out to you and those type of things. And I would love to connect. And if you're not on Clubhouse, I have, I think, 7 invites. So reach out to me and I'll get you an invite. Unfortunately, you have to have an iPhone, and I do have to connect with you. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. You can find me there too. But I'm excited to help and entrepreneurs and edpreneurs really grow their businesses. And I think that somebody said it seems to be a lot of edpreneurs on Clubhouse. Yeah. And it's great to connect for us to all, together and grow our businesses that way. But yeah, I forgot I was going to go say something, but it just went out. I saw the message and it went out my brain.
Well, and I'll put, people are asking for your link to the Clubhouse and things like that. And I'll put those in the show notes too, because this is also, I record this as a podcast. So those that are not able to join us, we had well over 100 people here today. So thank you everyone for being here. And this is being recorded, so you'll be able to listen to it again. And we'll put those in our in our show notes. And as we close, I also wanted to mention that I am going to be opening up my groups as well. So I've been doing coaching for consultants for less than a year when COVID started, and other things happen. I've started doing some mastermind coaching. So I'm starting a spring group. It's going to start the middle of April. So you can go to my website at cindymcdonald.com, which, remember, my name has 2 Y's, CYNDY, MCDONALD, and you'll see information. Set up an appointment with me, and I have applications. So I'm taking applications for my groups. I want to have both new people, you're just launching. I have one group for you, just like you've talked about, Gina, and then I have another group for people who are more experienced and have their practice have been going. So, some of these things we can talk about, but it's been such a pleasure to have you. And thank you, Gina, for sharing. I want to tell you that, I remember when I first started as an IEC, and I thought, well, there's got to be a way to do this. And I wanted to get away from paper and pencil and Post-it notes and folders. And I looked around and nobody else was doing any of that. So that's when I started my own technology company, because nobody else was doing it. And I had to show people how they could do their business using technology, because before nobody thought it was possible. You're doing the same thing. Everybody's, sometimes we're thinking, okay, you have to do it one-on-one, you have to do all these things, and you're showing how that all can be. So thank you. Go ahead.
You're welcome. Somebody just said they went to my page, and after they logged in, it took them to the sales page. Don't sign up on the sales page. I need to fix that, because that was a big group that I did, kind of like with the same thing that I did with my other group. I have a very small group that I have been working with. So yeah, that's going to change a lot, but go ahead and get on the wait list, and I'll figure out why it's not supposed to send you to the next page. So don't send me money, please. No.
We want money, but not right now. All right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I agree. I think what you were saying, Cyndy, when I first met you, I remember us having these conversations, and you were like so inspirational in pushing me, and just some of the coaching I did with you early on really impacted where and how I've gone too. So I think you're pretty amazing, and definitely what you have to offer is of huge value.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Well, everybody, join us next week. We are going to have another really special guest. Christine Bowman, another Texan, is going to join us from Southwestern, and she's going to talk about Slate and what it is and why colleges love it. And we need to understand this technology that they use, especially this year as the pandemic is rolling out and everybody, so many colleges are going test optional. What is it going to be? What are they going to be using for admissions? Demonstrated interest is going to become huge. So Christine's going to come talk to us about Slate. So if you have some questions about Slate or what it is or how it's used, please send them to me, Cyndy at cindymcdonald.com. All right. Thank you very much, Gina. The hour has just flown by. And, sometimes we wonder, it's like, well, what can we talk about for an hour? Well, that's never a problem, right?
Yes, I know it does. It just goes by and you're like, whoa, this just I can't believe it's been an hour.
I know. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Gina. Have a good weekend. And I'll see you all back on here next Friday. It is Good Friday, April 2nd, but at the same time, 11 o'clock Pacific time. So whatever time zone that is. So everyone, thank you very much. Again, Gina, thank you.